Tonight. So I wanted to talk to you about emergencies and about how we all kind of think, when I say an emergency, we all kind of think earthquake. And I just don't think that that's what an emergency is anymore. I'm sure eventually we'll have the big earthquake, but I think that there are things that happen every day in our lives that are unexpected, that if we are prepared for, are quite as traumatic as what they could have been. So I wanted to start off, just to get your brains rolling in preparedness way. Scenario number one. You are driving down a small highway in the mountains, and you notice an overturned car down in the snowbank. You do not have cell coverage. What do you do? And just so you know, this happened to me on Saturday. No, Monday. So, think about it. What would you do? Fortunately for me, there was no one in the car, so I didn't have to do anything. But we did call the police and had them come and investigate at least the car, because people were stopping to try and help even though there was no one in the car. Scenario number two. You are at home during a power outage. Your bored 3-year-old child climbs on top of your small entertainment center, and by so doing, pulled the TV off on top of herself. She is screaming in pain, and there is damage to her leg. You can see blood, but cannot clearly see the wound because the TV is too heavy to lift off. What do you do? This happened to my niece. Scenario number three. It is 10 a.m. in the morning, and you are out in the front yard watering your plants. You turn around, and your 20-month-old has disappeared. You frantically start looking everywhere and cannot find him in all of the obvious places. Now what? Again, this would be my life. Scenario number four. You work in Sandy, but you live in South Jordan. There has just been a flash flood, and the Jordan River is filled beyond capacity, flooding many of the roads, forcing a closure between the east side of the valley and the west side of the valley. Do you have the resources to take care of yourself until you are able to return home? Now, when you think about this one, I want you to think for a minute. Floods just don't go away the next day. So it would probably be a week before you could then get access back to the west side of the valley. Scenario number five. You take your family to see a movie at the theater. While you are watching the movie, an usher runs in and yells, "Everybody get out, there's a bomb in the building." Now, as you've thought about these situations, imagine your brain is not connected to your body, because that's what it feels like when the emergency happens. So, in order to be prepared for these, this is what I like to do when I'm driving in my car. I imagine worst case scenarios of what I would do with them. So I never park under an overpass, just in case there was an earthquake at the exact moment that I was parked under them. So think about things as you're driving, and so that when the emergencies happen, your brain can stay connected to your body. Okay. There is an episode of Provident Living on the Mormon Channel. All of the information's up there in case you would like to look into it. There, Val Dawson interviewed Nate Broadbent, who is a member of the Provo City Fire Department, and he is the CERT instructor for Provo City. And I listened to this interview, and he had some really neat points, and so I recorded some of them so that I could play them for you. Just to give you a couple of thoughts. Before I do that, I want to tell you why CERT was started. I don't know how many of you know this, but in 1985 in California, when there was all those major disasters going on, the officials in California realized that there was a need to have their citizens trained, because in a large-scale disaster, there is just not enough trained professionals who can help in a situation. And so that's when CERT began, was they decided that not only did they need trained citizens, well, not only did they need citizens who could help, but they needed them to be trained. Because sometimes when people try to help, all they do is create a bigger situation. And so that's how the program was started. And then FEMA adopted it after that, and so that is how we now have the CERT program. For an example, in this episode, he said that there are 120,000 citizens in the city of Provo alone. There are only 25 firemen on duty and 50 police officers. So someone who's good with math, what is 120,000 divided by 75? So the chances are you're not going to get immediate help in a large-scale situation. So that is why CERT is such a fantastic resource, because it teaches you so many things that you can then empower yourself and be able to help yourself, and then turn and help your neighbors instead of waiting and getting angry that no one has come to help you yet. Okay, let me play this one for you.
Absolutely. If the emergency services aren't up and running or capable of getting to individuals, the CERT community needs to be able to be aware of the potential hazards that they might have to deal with in their situation, their neighborhood, that they might come upon, being those medical type emergencies, being a little bit more prepared to understand what there is and accept those things, and have some sort of direction in handling those.
It sounds like, from what you're saying too, and from what I had reviewed in some of the materials, CERT is almost a team approach. People capitalize on their strengths that they can bring to a group to help deal with an emergency situation. This person can bring medical knowledge, and this person can bring some other kind of knowledge to help with an emergency that may confront a community.
Absolutely. CERT, or community, being the first word, is the whole issue. We can't do any one of these things by ourselves in any kind of proficient manner without the aid of many, many, many people. And that's the whole of CERT, is continual recruitment, continual training for these type of emergencies. And hopefully they never happen, but being prepared is a wonderful peace of mind.
I love how he talked about how in a CERT group we bring our strengths. There's no way that any of us could tackle a huge situation by ourselves. We really need each other in order to be proficient and in order to be successful. We each have strengths, we each have weaknesses, and yet as a group we're more able to perform to the best of our abilities. So remember that as we proceed throughout the rest of the night, and just keep that in the back of your mind. Okay. So I am part of the Harriman CERT teams. For the past 7 years, let's restate that. For 7 years I've been part of the Harriman CERT team, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of it as we were building it from the ground up. So I learned so much from the people around me, and how to organize and how to get people excited to learn. My biggest pet peeve now is when people use fear to get people to get involved, because that's not it at all. There's such a special peace that comes from being prepared that you can't receive in any other way. And I love CERT because when I first took the class, I thought, oh great, they're going to call me away from my 4 children, and what am I supposed to do with them? And then I'm forced to become part of this group. And as I finished the class, I realized how it had helped me as a mother be able to take care of my own family. I learned how to search for my missing 20-month-old child, so that when he grew up and broke his leg and then he broke his arm, it wasn't quite as a traumatic experience because I had gained those skills that I had learned in the CERT class. In Harriman, we do drills 2 times a year, in the spring and in the fall. And it's a set weekend every time, so everybody knows. We're fortunate enough that Harriman City will sponsor it so that we can just participate with them. The kind of drills that we've done is we've done an earthquake drill, a wildfire drill, school evacuations, floods, and we've done communication treaty.